Equipped podcast, where we believe the Christian should be the most well read, the most well informed person in the room. And when I say we, it's just me, but that truly feel that way, strongly feel that way. And I love to get that across to my students, all my students, both young people and adults. Well, in the last episode, we looked at anthropology and the correct view of us. We looked at some of the wrong views, and now we're going to look at the right view. What is man? Well, we concluded last time we are made in God's image. We get that clearly from the Bible. And yet we're fallen. We're rebellious. So we're made in God's image, yet fallen. So we also concentrated last week on the idea that truth matches reality. So that's exactly what we see. And that's in my heart, that just, again, my testimony is I was searching for truth. And boy, the Bible has fulfilled all the questions I've had and continues to fill me with knowledge and truth. And that's why I'm still so excited about it. But that truth there, that's what we see. We see atheists that are involved in charity work. Well, that's a weird dynamic. We see preachers that fall into immorality. What's going on? What explains both of those things? Well, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, I've used this quote many times. I love quotes. You might know that already about me. I love quotes. And he famously said, the line he asked about his communist oppressors and about evil and how to forgive them. And he rightly said, the line between good and evil goes right through the middle of every person's heart. And that's so true. But that is exactly how the Bible teaches us. Now, we see the best of mankind when we follow God's principles, when we follow his blueprint. John 15:13 says this, not an exact quote, but there's no greater love than when a man will lay down his life for a friend. And of course, we have the Congressional Medal of Honor that proves that. That's the greatest virtue in all humanity. Well, see, that's exactly what Jesus did. We recognize that. It's in our DNA. It's in our bones. We understand that. It's in our soul. We know that. The best of mankind. Well, I love another couple quotes from actually an atheistic historian. Has become very famous lately, a new book, Dominion, he wrote. His name is Tom Holland, and he said this. Again, this from an atheist. Recently, he said he turned Christian. I don't think he's a born-again Christian, but he appreciates Christianity so much. While studying the ancient world, Holland writes, he realized something. Simply, the ancients were cruel and their values utterly foreign to him. The Spartans routinely murdered imperfect children. The bodies of slaves were treated like outlets for the physical pleasure of those with power. Infanticide was common. The poor and the weak had no rights. How did we get from there to here? It was Christianity, Holland writes. Christianity revolutionized sex and marriage, demanding that men control themselves and prohibiting all forms of rape. Christianity confined sexuality within monogamy. It's ironic, Holland notes, that these are now the very standards for which Christianity is derided, and that's a fact. Christianity elevated women. In short, Christianity utterly transformed the world. Another quote here, he was responding to an English philosopher, A.C. Grayling, and he claimed he could think of nothing that truly unique that Christianity had given the world. Well, then along comes Tom Holland, and he said this. In about 90 seconds, Holland rattled off a list that included lifelong marriage, concepts of sexuality that protected women and children, the modern scientific project, the idea that humans bear the image of God, the universality of ethics, and more. As Holland puts it, essentially, what I'm talking about is what makes Western civilization distinctive. These ideas ended slavery, expanded care to the poor, established democracy, educated the masses, and insisted that everyone be under the same law. The source of every one of these ideas is centuries of Christian reflection on the truths of the Bible. In short, what has Christianity given the world? Nearly everything that matters most. So we see the best of humanity, that part that we're made in God's image. But then we see, as Holland writes, we see atrocities, those other civilizations that he talked about, ancient civilizations, but even today, ancient Greece, ancient Rome. Think of the gladiator games, the Indian caste system, sati, where a virtuous wife, when the husband would be burned on a pyre, they call it, to burn his body after he died, a virtuous woman would jump into the pyre. They would bury the wife alive with the husband. Why? She wasn't worth anything. Even today, we see in the Islamic world an infidel, a Jew, their life is worth nothing. How different than Christianity. Everybody's life. Why? We can justify it. Why is every life worth something? We can't just kill those that don't believe because we're made in God's image, see? That's what man is. Of course, we talked about Rousseau, and I love Dennis Prager mentioned he was sitting down I think it was in Harvard or one of the Ivy League schools, and sitting down, but he talked to the two young men that were going to interview him, and he asked them if they thought men were basically good, and both of them agreed, yeah, men are basically good. But he said this: you think men are basically good only because you live in America. And this is interesting insight because Dennis Prager has been over 130 countries around the world. So your perspective is very limited. You've been in America. That's why you think basically people are good. No, read a little bit of history, get around the world, and you'll see that's not true at all. So what is man then? What does the Bible teach? Well, we are a special creation. We're made in his image. And not even the angels can say that. No one else can say that but man. We're free moral agents also. God gave us that free will. He gave angels free will because a third of them turned their back on God. So you see, God creates and he's very interested in freedom. The book of Exodus shows us that. He's very interested in freedom. By the way, that explains a question so many people have, and the answer is very simple. It's very theological answer. It doesn't satisfy them, but here's the answer. God made us with free will. You have free will to do right and good and charitable works. You also have the freedom to do evil. If God would stop all the evil, which a lot of people question, why doesn't he just stop evil? Well, he's going to. He's going to. He's making a place where there's no more sin, no more curse, where there is no evil. It's just not yet. Not yet. Oh, he will. He didn't make robots. He could have made a world where there's no evil, where everybody just obeys him and loves him, but then he would have made robots. And that's not what he wanted. So we're created for a purpose. An eternal purpose. And knowing that, boy, does that give life meaning. And a couple episodes ago, we talked about Nietzsche and that nihilism, when that's not reality for some. There is no purpose. There is no meaning. Well, not only that, because we're a special creation made by God for a purpose, Genesis 1:28. This is what they call the creation mandate. And God blessed them right after he created man. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So what does that tell us? What is man? Well, not only is he a special creation, God created this world and everything in it for us. Now, I get a kick out of the extreme environmentalists. I'm all about being wise with the environment, and the Bible even talks about that. Even with animals, to be um, not to be cruel, we'll say to animals. But again, some of these silly environmentalists that go way overboard. Poor Greta Thunberg, this girl. What a miserable, miserable young lady. Always protesting, always angry. It just, well, see, you've got the wrong worldview. The right worldview, when you have the right idea of anthropology, who we are, you know, it is good then. This will make so much sense. And this just happened. This is within a couple of years ago. I can't remember exactly when. Stopping wildfires in California, stopping wildfires from killing people and burning up people's property is way more important than the Delta smelt. Now, if you're unfamiliar with that, the Delta smelt is the reason they can't pump enough water to keep the reservoirs filled and use those reservoirs to put out fires. Why? Because of a smelt, a 3-inch long endangered fish. Now, we roll our eyes at that. We're appalled at that. Well, if we take God at his word and we understand who man is, what man is, it flips the entire script. No, no, no. Men are more important than a smelt. And it's because of those policies, the water policies in California, to protect a fish, that the wildfires in this case were just horrible. See, isn't that practical? The Bible's very practical. The solution to the problems, of course, cutting down trees or using fossil fuels, they are concerned about, well, how will that affect nature? No, no, no. If we don't, how will it affect the flourishing of humans? See, that's the right way of thinking about it. Back in the day, it was the spotted owl. We couldn't cut down trees because of the spotted owl. Well, I wonder what happened to the price of lumber. I wonder what happened to the number of homes that went up. I wonder what happened to the cost of building homes now that lumber is, see what I mean? Human flourishing. We need fossil fuels, abundant, cheap energy. Why? For the survival of humanity. And there's people that want to stop using fossil fuels. Let me ask you this. How are we going to get the crops out of the field if there's no diesel fuel? How can we feed 8 billion people? We can, by the way. David Attenborough, speaking of that, he's concerned about there being too many people on Earth. Now, he's my favorite narrator of any nature show. If he's narrating, I want to watch it. But he's concerned about the extinction of species, of the loss of forest and pollution. And really, his statements, we are a cancer upon this earth, like a tumor, a growing tumor, and we got to stop it. So which is it? Are we a cancer or are we the crown of creation? And then, boy, will you think differently about these ideas. Some think we're parasites on this earth. And this is from David Attenborough, actually. We now realize that the disasters that continue increasingly to affect the natural world have one element that connects them all: the unprecedented increase in the number of human beings on the planet. Having large families means compounding the problems their children and everybody else's children will face in the future. It needs action by governments, of course, governments. In my view, all countries should develop a population theory. Now, Jacques Cousteau, this is back in the day, um, famous oceanographer, did a lot of specials. And of course, he was concerned about too many people. And he was asked, well, if there's too many people, what do we do? He literally said, we need to start eliminating them. Famous animal rights book. Here's the title of the book. A rat is a pig, is a dog, is a boy. That's their view. Now, isn't it interesting? These same people, the left, that think there's too many people on this earth, they're pro-abortion, they're pro-euthanasia, they're pro-assisted suicide, they're anti-nuclear family. Well, doesn't that make you think a little bit? Robert Malthus, this is a fellow way back in 1798. He predicted too many people on earth, and there's going to be mass starvation. I believe he was from England, from Britain. Well, this is what happened. He didn't add this to his calculus about what would happen. Man figures it out. See, man is creative like their creator. Man is creative. We'll figure it out. And we did. The agricultural revolution came along. The industrial revolution came along. Well, what is that? That's the creation mandate. Take dominion over the earth and subdue the earth. Well, you know what? That's exactly, you discover the laws of nature and then you use those laws of nature to our advantage. One of my heroes is George Washington Carver. And he revolutionized the agriculture of the South, but really the whole economy of the South, because they were growing cotton. And of course, you need to grow legumes. Well, legumes, peanuts, soybeans, there was no use for them. So he went into his laboratory. This is what he did. He prayed. He didn't take any textbooks with him. He said he prayed to the God of the peanut to open up the mystery of the peanut to him. I wish all scientists did that in their laboratory. Well, guess what? He discovered 300 uses for the peanut. So now they could plant what they wanted to, tobacco and cotton and indigo or whatever. And then they were able to plant peanuts. Nobody would plant peanuts to revitalize the soil because there's no use for them. Now there's 300 uses for them. Now they can sell them to all these different companies that are using them. What's that called? Having dominion over the earth and subduing it like we're told to in Scripture for the flourishing of human beings, and not much care about a delta schmelt or a spotted owl or another organism that might even go extinct. Subdue it. Hey, why don't you dam up water and cause a massive waterfall that can turn turbines that can produce more electricity? How about this? How about unlock the nuclear force in the atom? That'll give you a lot of energy. This world, this is what I want you to understand. This world, with that correct view of man, this world was created for us. So next time you watch David Attenborough and he's whining about global warming and species and how many people there are on Earth, don't feel bad. I don't. He wants you to feel bad. No, feel blessed because you are a special creation and all this world was made for us. Feel special because you are. We'll see you next time.